Welcome to the Sportsman's Voice Roundup, your weekly look at conservation and sporting community news happening across the nation and on the Hill. Thanks for tuning in. This is the TSV Roundup. Welcome in, everybody, to the Sportsman's Voice Roundup for the week of May 13th, 2024. This week, we bring you breaking news out of Vermont concerning the board bill, Senate Bill 258. We head to the Hill, where the Senate unanimously passes significant CSF priority ACE Reauthorization Act. Oregon Department of Fish and Wildlife announces a new director. Pennsylvania poised to become the 32nd state to issue discounted hunting licenses and fishing licenses to college students. Legislation in Louisiana looks to protect conservation funding. And applications for public land elk, black bears, and more in Arkansas and Missouri. Let's get to that breaking news. Last Friday, Senate Bill 258 failed to move and for now is dead. This is great news. We've done reporting on this. We had our action alert. Cautiously optimistic this is the final result. As far back as the bill was introduced, CSF was engaged. We hosted a legislative reception in Montpelier where so many sportsmen and women came out to that reception that we held in partnership with state and state organizations. CSF co-chairs were on hand to speak to the crowd. The Fish and Wildlife Commissioner was also there, available to speak to the crowd. We submitted written testimony. We were available for oral testimony. We put a lot of work into this. Our partners did as well. And, it's nice when a result like this comes about. Now, I say cautiously optimistic. I have seen in the socials some folks locally and otherwise celebrating this as a complete win, which, again, it is, but we want to be clear in our reporting that there is an opportunity for this to come back during the June veto session. Though it is unlikely, our caucus leadership seems to think that'll be the case. We have to exercise caution here, and until the process is final, CSF will remain attentive, keenly aware of anything moving should any life be put back in to this awful legislation. So for now, we're going to celebrate where we're at, but rest assured we'll be all over this should it come back in any sort of way. Now, saying that, it's likely going to come back in the next session. As we've talked about on this program, we know that this is the playbook. This is where we're at in 2024 and going forward. This is the play being run to circumvent and undermine fish and game commissions and boards across this country to reallocate their authority or absorb them in other state agencies. We saw that in Kentucky. There's always been rumors of fishing game boards, fishing game organizations being absorbed into other umbrella, other higher, or not higher, but just other organizations, other state organizations like a Department of Safety, for that matter. So anyway, got to keep an eye on this tactic, and when it comes about, rout it out and kill it. And it would be really great to be proactive on this as we know it's coming and work together with in-state partners, sportsmen and women in the state, and have a voice on this and speak loudly against it for all the reasons we've covered in the past. Certainly, we want to thank all of the Vermonters who responded to our action alert, who wrote thousands of letters that were sent into the legislature expressing their displeasure and not wanting to see the Vermont Fish and Wildlife Board dismantled, have that authority reassigned to the agency alone and just serving as an advisory board, not allowing non-hunting or those opposed to hunting, anti-hunters and obstructionists onto that board. It's good. It's really good, and happy to report that to you this week. More follow-up to come on this topic as we have finalization. That's the hope, that it will be officially dead in the coming weeks. Let's go to the Hill, where the Senate unanimously passes significant CSF priority ACE Reauthorization Act. The ACE Reauthorization Act seeks to reauthorize nearly a dozen provisions that will bolster the conservation of fish, wildlife, and other associated habitats across North America and provide an important protection for America's anglers. The legislation has been a top priority for CSF since the ACE Act was first signed into law in 2020. Leading up to the committee passage, CSF worked to secure bipartisan co-sponsors to the ACE Reauthorization Act to demonstrate a widespread support for the legislation. CSF also worked to secure modifications to the National Fish Habitat Conservation through Partnerships, NFHP for short, language, in order to improve the program's efficiency and be able to drive limited dollars to where they are needed the most. Unanimous passage of Senate 3791 continues to demonstrate that conservation and other sporting conservation priorities continue to be an area of strong bipartisan agreement. This quote from our President and CEO, Jeff Crane: "At a time when Congress appears to be extremely divided, we continue to see that issues of importance to sportsmen and women remain an area of strong bipartisan support." The unanimous Senate passage of the ACE Reauthorization Act is a clear result of the bipartisan efforts of the Congressional Sportsmen's Caucus members, Chairman Carper, Ranking Member Capito, and the other leaders of this legislation who deliver wins for sportsmen and women across the nation. Specifically, the ACE Reauthorization Act includes important programs such as the North American Wetlands Conservation Act, which provides strategic investments to conserving and restoring degraded wetlands across North America. Since its inception 35 years ago, North American Wetlands Conservation Act has provided over $2.1 billion in federal grants and has leveraged nearly $4.3 billion in non-federal contributions. In total, there have been over 3,300 North American Wetland Conservation Act projects that have contributed to the conservation of nearly 32 million acres of wetlands in the United States, Mexico, and Canada. Fortunately, America has lost roughly 50% of its wetlands. If passed, the ACE Reauthorization Act will increase the North American Wetlands Conservation Act authorization level from $60 million annually to $65 million annually to address the declines in wetlands. Furthermore, ACE would provide a 5-year protection to prohibit the EPA from regulating the use of lead fishing tackle under the purview of the Toxic Substance Control Act, TSCA for short. The EPA has consistently reaffirmed state management authority of lead fishing tackle, and this legislation will ensure the EPA cannot be petitioned to regulate lead tackle under TSCA for a period of 5 years. We at CSF would like to extend our gratitude to Congressional Sportsmen's Caucus members, Chairman Carper, Ranking Member Capito, and the other bipartisan leaders of the legislation. We look forward to working with the House to get this legislation passed. Moving on, Oregon gets to announce a new wildlife director. Let's check in to that announcement. So Debbie Colbert was selected to be the next director of Oregon's Department of Fish and Wildlife. Debbie Colbert served as the deputy director of ODFW since 2021 and was tasked with overseeing fish, wildlife, habitat, and regional programs. In addition, the deputy director had worked with legislative engagement, including a 3-month special assignment to the governor's Natural Resource Office in 2023. With a PhD in oceanography, Debbie has served in Oregon for more than 2 decades, including multiple roles within ODFW. Prior to Friday's vote, the Congressional Sportsmen's Foundation had worked closely with Oregon Sportsmen's Legislative Caucus co-chairs and the Oregon Sportsmen's Conservation Partnership to support Debbie Colbert's nomination, believing that she was the best candidate Our goal was to ensure that the sportsman's voice is represented in both the recruitment process and the future of ODFW. Let's go east to Pennsylvania, where we are looking at an opportunity to become the 32nd state to issue discounted hunting and fishing licenses to college students by way of Senate Bill 344 that would address the issue and safeguard collective outdoor heritage by allowing non-resident college and university students who are attending college within the Keystone State to purchase hunting and trapping fees the same rate as Pennsylvania residents. Senate Bill 344 is sponsored by Senator Chris Gabehard and is co-sponsored by Pennsylvania Sportsmen's Legislative Caucus co-chair Senator Greg Rotham, Senator Jim Brewster, and former caucus co-chair Senator Dan Laughlin. Senate Bill 344 passed the Senate unanimously and was referred to the House Game and Fisheries Committee, but is yet to receive a hearing date. So we're going back to 2023 with that passage. Shortly thereafter, CSF engaged the House Game and Fisheries Committee to schedule a hearing of Senate Bill 344 so the bill can continue the process. So why do we support this? Why is this a top priority for CSF? Well, a couple of reasons. You got college kids that go to different schools, cash-strapped. They don't have the support of a home wherever they came from to help them in that process of continuing on with their outdoor hobbies and pursuits. So many different things to pay for at college, overpriced books, overpriced credits, especially for the out-of-staters. Even in-state tuition is obscene in so many states. But my whole point is they have a lot of financial obligations just to get through their undergrad and going into post if they choose to do so. But in the meantime, college-age students, that 18 to 22, typically are one of the lost age groups. And so we're talking R3, where you have kids that, were raised with it or, looking to continue with it. This is a big barrier, the cost associated with not even the gear, that when they're out spreading their wings, leaving the nest, as it were, and doing things on their own. The non-resident fees in so many states are not cheap. They are pretty dang expensive. So with this, there's an opportunity to maintain this age demographic as they're going to school, keep them involved in the outdoor pursuits that require licensing, keep them contributing in the states where they are hunting, fishing, and trapping as college students, which is a great thing. So this is important legislation to get passed, and hopefully on the other side of that, whether they continue to go on or not, some states their language allows for this while they are in school. Others, this is just for the 4 years, the undergrad period. Regardless of whether it's for or continuation, being able to have someone from 18 to 22 years old continue on with what they like to do and not have them cash strapped is a big deal. And hopefully that continues on after they either leave college or participate in a couple more years, whatever it is. By that time, hopefully they got their ducks in a row and they're able to afford these things and be in a better position. But coming out of high school, 17, 18 years old, 17 in some cases, it's a hard bill to pay for. So certainly, we'd like to see this done, and we look forward to continuing to work with the Pennsylvania Legislative Sportsmen's Caucus to move the bill through the House committee and ultimately to the floor for final passage. Heading to Louisiana, legislation to protect conservation funding for the Louisiana Department of Wildlife and Fisheries by requiring that the agency be reimbursed for revenue lost due to the creation of free and discounted hunting and fishing license is forward-leaning mechanism to safeguard the ability of the State Fish and Wildlife Agency to manage the state's public trust resources and provide services for the sportsmen and women whose license dollars provide significant funding for the agency. House Bill 795, which would require the state to reimburse LDWF resulting from free and discounted recreational hunting and fishing licenses created by the legislature. The legislation passed the House Committee on Natural Resources and Environment unanimously 9-0 on April 16th. CSF submitted testimony to the committee in support of the bill on April 23rd. 795 passed the House with strong bipartisan support, 97-3. On May 8th, the legislation passed the Senate Natural Resource Committee with no opposition. Prior to the committee meeting, CSF submitted a coalition letter of support with 10 partner organizations. We've talked about this so many times in this program's short existence. The ability to provide discounted or free licenses to certain specific groups is a wonderful thing, but it's got to be paid for. So putting legislation forward to backfill these special licenses is crucial and must happen throughout this country, throughout these states, in order to maintain the funding mechanism that exists. We have the model, we have the language, and we can provide. And we do. And Louisiana is doing just that. The next step for HB 795 is the Senate floor. CSF will continue to work to support the bill's advancement this session. Finally, not too far away, Arkansas and Missouri. Elk and bear tags available. Let's check it out. Application periods for public land elk permits and elk and bear permits are currently open to residents in Arkansas and Missouri, respectively. The availability of these opportunities highlights the success state agency and sportsman-led restoration and management efforts for these iconic species. CSF is proud to have supported the relatively recent efforts to open these opportunities in Missouri and continues to applaud the successful management of elk populations in Arkansas. And beginning in May, where we're at now, hunters in Missouri and Arkansas have the opportunity to apply for a limited number of permits on these iconic species that were once extirpated from much of the Midwest. In Missouri, resident hunters may apply through the Missouri Department of Conservation for a limited number of both elk and bear tags, while residents in Arkansas can apply through the Arkansas Game and Fish Commission for a limited number of public land elk tags. The presence of both black bear and elk highlights the success of sportsman-led wildlife restoration and management efforts as carried out by the respective state fish and wildlife agencies. Now relegated to approximately 10% of their historic North American range, elk are undoubtedly becoming the most iconic deer species in the world, while populations remain strong in many mountainous states. Much of the heartland saw elk disappear in response to effects of European settlers. Likewise, black bears are once among the top predators throughout much of the nation. Today, hunters in both Missouri and Arkansas, along with several other states, can pursue these iconic species while continuing to support conservation through the User Pays Public Benefits American System Conservation Funding. So, make sure if you're looking to put in for a lottery, put in for those permits, you do not miss an opportunity. So, Arkansas, Missouri, looking at you, make sure you're putting in there. And good luck. Good luck to those who are able to draw those permits. That's a fantastic opportunity. Likewise, and unrelated to those, but I can tell you that in the Northeast, that moose applications are fast approaching the deadline. So Vermont, New Hampshire, Maine, As far as I know, Maine boasts the best opportunity in the lower 48 to secure a moose permit, followed by New Hampshire. I believe I know some of the western states have pretty good odds. Vermont is trying to control their moose herd, especially in the Northeast Kingdom. That is E1, E2 management areas, and an attempt to rein in the questing tick, the moose tick, affectionately known as, by limiting herd number density in that part of the state. So there's an opportunity there. So anyway, really cool work, really cool history there in both Arkansas and Missouri to bring back species there. And well, good luck if you're putting in for them, and especially if you get drawn. Folks, last week our feature podcast presentation that was released last Thursday features good friends Jana Waller and Jules McQueen. Jana, of course, of Skullbound TV, and Jules, the president of Carbon TV. If you've consumed any outdoor media in the last 10 years, you know exactly who these two fantastic ladies are. Please tune in, go check that episode out. We had a great conversation hitting on so many different topics as far as women in the outdoors, where we're at currently in 2024, how hunters represent the community, a tale as old as, well, maybe 20 years on social media, but it's evolved, and we discuss what that looks like currently, as opposed to the old arguments and talking points around social media and how we're presented. And I think I said this last week on the Roundup, but if you're a Game of Thrones fan, we got some good pop culture leading off the program. So do check out the featured program there from last Thursday. As always, join us every Wednesday for our news roundup from across the nation. We thank you for tuning in. This week is the off week for the feature program. Next Thursday, we bring that to you. We thank you all for tuning in and bringing us along for your day. Please subscribe to the Sportsman's Voice EPUB. Go to congressionalsportsman.org. Sign up for that today. It is free, as is this program. So grab a link, share it in your socials, text it to a friend. Find news items that are of importance to you and share amongst the sporting community in your state. Make people aware. And if there's stuff that is going off the rails, man, it is an election year. Go vote. Keep saying that. I'm going to beat that drum. We have to have better participation in that process. Otherwise, we can't have nice things. And that's just the truth of it. So, parting words. Be engaged. Listen to this program as much as possible. Share it as much as possible. And a shout out to Great Britain. I got to tell you guys, we are on the charts in Great Britain. I'm not sure if that's a good thing or a bad thing. I don't know who's listening, but I thank you for it. I thank you for tuning in. And hey, we North America, we have the model. So hopefully, you citizens there in Great Britain, we're trying to maybe affect change as far as conservation and the utilization of your resources. Maybe there's something here for you. Somebody thinks so. They're tuning in, and we thank you for it. So anyway, let's get this program on the top of the charts here in our home country, and you guys can do that by subscribing, rating, and sharing this thing out. And for those that have been doing it, thank you so much. That is it for this week's show. Thanks again, as always. Be safe out there in the turkey woods. If you're on the water, be safe. Watch your speed limits. Wear your flotation device. You know all the stuff. We just want you getting home safely. And so you can go vote, if nothing else. Guys, have a great week, and we'll see you next Wednesday. Thanks so much for tuning in. Bye. Thanks for joining us on this edition of the Sportsman's Voice podcast. Ladies and gentlemen, your support is crucial, and you can help us out right now by leaving a review, filling in those 5 stars where available, sharing this episode with friends and family, and engaging with us socially. CSF can be found on Facebook, Instagram, and X, formerly known as Twitter. Together, we can protect the outdoor sports we love and continue to keep you informed wherever you are. That's it for this week. Until next time, we'll see you later.